Hey everyone, this is Alex, the real Mr. Robinson. Welcome to episode 6 of the Alexander Robinson Movie News Show. And, like last week, I hate to start on such a downer, but we're just going to jump right into the news right now. And this is literally breaking news today. Oh my god, this is... it's a story that reminds everyone out there, fuck 2016. It is such a shitty year. We've had celebrities dying left and right, and unfortunately another one has joined the list, and this one's really tragic. And I even hate where I'm reporting this from. This is from TMZ, because in addition to 2016, fuck TMZ. Star Trek star Anton Yelchin dead after freak accident. Like, what the fuck is going on with this world? Anyway, here it is. Actor Anton Yelchin, known for his roles in Star Trek and Alpha Dog, was killed early today, June 19th, 2016, the day I'm recording this show, after getting pinned by his own car. Yelchin's friends became alarmed because he was supposed to meet them hours earlier for a rehearsal. They went to his San Fernando Valley home at around 1 a.m. and found him pinned between his car and a brick mailbox, which was attached to a security gate. Law enforcement tells us that engine was running when his body was discovered, and the car was in neutral. The driveway was on a fairly steep incline. It's unclear why he got out of the car. Cops do not suspect foul play. Yelchin was 27 years old. Fuck. We've had a lot of people die this year, like too many. We had Abe Vigoda die, who I thought was invincible for a long time, but it was like, well, it's old age, so he wasn't going to be around for that much longer. And then we've had other people die, like, of diseases. It's like, that sucks, but we kind of expected it because it was serious condition. And then here it's like Anton Yelchin dead, and you're like, wait, what? Like, okay, as I'm recording this, I'm about to record the Geeked Out Nation show right after I get done with this show. So we're talking about like the setup for the show, like we're just getting all our notes together. And then Stephen Merced, who's the main host and creator of Geeked Out Nation, he said, "Did you hear about Anton Yelchin?" And I just go, "No." Oh shit, I know where this is going. I don't like it, And he just said, "Yep, freak accident, And I was like, God damn it. Like, I didn't want to believe it at first, but then I Google it, and the first website to show up was TMZ, and I'm like, God damn it. God damn it. But, here's the thing. Here's something I'll give credit to for TMZ, and you'll never hear me say this again because fuck TMZ, So they're a bunch of stalkers and just crazy nutbags. When they, report on the death of a celebrity, usually they're the first ones to report it, they pretty much nail it, because, people have this conspiracy, like when Michael Jackson died, some people actually had a conspiracy theory. It's like TMZ killed Michael Jackson, which I honestly don't think is true. But this is just, I don't even know what to say. This sucks, and he's got Star Trek Beyond coming out next month, and this is just another instance where we're gonna have to watch that movie and watch Chekhov and go, wow, Anton Yelchin's dead. That sucks. He was also just in Green Room, which is a movie that's been getting a lot of praise. I haven't seen it myself, but fuck, man, It's just so unreal when someone under 30 dies. Like, I know there was that singer who got killed in Florida this past weekend, and I was like, that is depressing as hell that they die so young. I don't even know what else to say at this point. Anton Yelchin, rest in peace, man. From the movies I've seen him in, he was good. He did have charisma, And this sucks. He's gonna be sorely missed. Anton Yelchin, rest in peace. 1989 to 2016. Oh my God. Let's move on to the other news. Like the news that I had prepped out for this show, and literally before I hit the record button, I get word that Anton Yelchin has passed away. So let's get into the news that I actually have planned out, and maybe it'll help lighten things up. Although this first story I don't think is gonna do any good. So this comes from the Hollywood Reporter. The Conjuring 2 spin-off, The Nun, is in the works. Basically, if you saw The Conjuring 2, there was this nun character that Vera Farmiga's character had visions of, and that she was worried it was going to be responsible for the death of her husband. I mean, spoiler alert. I mean, Patrick Wilson's character doesn't die, but that's just a spoiler for The Conjuring, that what part the nun plays and how it connects to Vera Farmiga's character. So apparently they're going Annabelle once again and making a spin-off to something that was just very minor. Here's what the article says. New Line is developing a bad habit. Fresh off the success of The Conjuring 2, the film company is spinning off the villain from the supernatural thriller, The Demonic Nun, into her own movie. David Leslie Johnson, who co-wrote Conjuring 2, has been hired to pen what is being titled The Nun. James Wan, who directed the Conjuring movies, and Peter Safran, who produced them, are reuniting to produce the spin-off. What is noteworthy about the demon nun character is that she didn't exist until about 3 months before Conjuring 2 opened, and she was only added during last-minute reshoots. That's a clear sign that this is probably not going to be very good. I mean, they spun off Annabelle, which, I mean, I saw The Conjuring 2, the first Conjuring, and the whole movie, the Annabelle doll was actually one of the weaker parts of the movie. And when they made a spin-off for that movie, it was bullshit. And now we're getting another spin-off of something minor, and the fact that they say that she was added in at the last minute is not good at all. I mean, for the sake of The Conjuring 2, I guess it was good to develop Vera Farmiga's character further. I almost said Sofia Vergara. But I don't know. This is just bad news all over. It's solely a cash grab. I imagine it's going to be shitty when it comes out. But we'll see what happens. Alright, well, let's move on to the next bit of news. This comes from Variety. Let's get into Marvel. Let's get into something a little more upbeat. And there's no better upbeat hero to talk about than Spider-Man. There's even more casting in regards to Spider-Man Homecoming. And we got Troy himself from Community, Donald Glover, joining Spider-Man Homecoming. And again, this article comes from Variety, and it says, Community alum Donald Glover has joined Spider-Man Homecoming. Glover most recently appeared in the Oscar-nominated film The Martian, opposite Matt Damon and Jessica Chastain. He can be seen next in his FX comedy Atlanta, which premieres later this summer. His other past credits include Lazarus and Magic Mike XXL. So that's all it says right here. No other bit of news concerning Donald Glover in the movie. All we know is that he's just cast. Now, here's what people are jumping to the conclusion about. That he's probably going to be Miles Morales. Basically the Black Spider-Man in the Ultimate series. Because let's go back to The Amazing Spider-Man when it was coming out. Donald Glover put out a petition to try to get him to be Spider-Man in the movie. A lot of people were kind of behind it. But in the end, they ultimately went for Andrew Garfield. However, since then, Donald Glover has voiced Miles Morales in the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon, which was perfect because when you look at Miles Morales, his look is kind of modeled off of Donald Glover, especially when you look at him from Community. And in Community, they actually make a little joke in the season premiere when Troy wakes up in a Spider-Man shirt, and it's like, okay, That's funny right there. And also Donald Glover is very talented. I think he's incredibly funny, smart, he's in a lot of good stuff, and I think this is a great casting choice. I mean, hell, with a cast like Tom Holland, Michael Keaton, Robert Downey Jr., Marissa Tomei, it's going to be awesome, I have to say. So I don't think he's going to play Miles Morales in this movie because Miles Morales is supposed to be like much younger than high school Peter Parker. Donald Glover, I think, is in his 30s, early 30s at that, and he's just too old to play Miles Morales, unless, of course, they decide to modify Miles Morales to be older, which I don't know if they will. I mean, Marvel does seem to have a habit of, when it comes to Marvel Studios, they have a habit of like taking stuff from the comic and kind of modifying them to work within the cinematic universe. Like Tony Stark creating Ultron and not Hank Pym because Ultron has to be brainchild of the Avengers. That worked to an extent. There's some other liberties they take that work within the film universe that if they translated directly from the comics, it wouldn't work. Like killing off Captain America in Civil War. While it would have been faithful to the comic Civil War, it wouldn't have made a whole lot of sense because in the comics, Sharon and Crossbones are the ones who are responsible for the death of Steve Rogers. Sharon by pure accident. But in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Sharon Carter and Steve Rogers are just getting to know each other and just gotten in a relationship. And Crossbones is killed at the beginning of Civil War, so there's no way they could have done the killing off Captain America thing. And honestly, again, for that movie, I'm glad they didn't. But back to Spider-Man Homecoming. I'm looking forward to this. One thing that Civil War did great was get me excited for Spider-Man Homecoming and Black Panther. So, I mean, this is a stellar cast they have right now. We'll see what happens. I'm excited for this. All right, you know what? We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to round up the rest of the news stories. Love what I'm doing on this channel? Love watching movie reviews, let's plays, or podcasts? Want to help the channel grow even further? Then you can go over to patreon.com/TheRealMrRobinson and give out a monthly donation, and you'll help the channel grow. In return, you'll get special rewards such as access to retro reviews, let's plays, and podcasts before anyone else does. And if you don't want to donate or can't donate, then hey, that's perfectly awesome. You get awesome content regardless. But the really cool thing is you can donate maybe as little as a penny. You can donate a penny a month if you want. So, I mean, any little bit will do, and your support is greatly appreciated. So again, that's patreon.com/TheRealMrRobinson. Go over there and donate, help this channel grow. Again, patreon.com/TheRealMrRobinson. Alright, we're back, and let's get into a news story that actually has me laughing. And this comes from comicbookmovie.com. So we have Independence Day Resurgence coming out this coming weekend. But in an interview, Roland Emmerich has stated why he's not interested in, quote, silly, unquote, Marvel movies. So here's what the article says. Roland Emmerich has become known for making movies which essentially amount to little more than disaster porn, and the vast majority of the time, those are pretty awful. However, it turns out that even he turns his nose up to the increasingly popular superhero genre, something which is evident from a recent interview the director took part in with The Guardian. According to the site, the filmmaker is filled with disdain at the notion that his movies are in any way similar to comic book adaptations, and he went on to explain why that is. And he says, quote, "When you look at my movies, it's always the regular Joe Schmo that's the unlikely hero. A lot of Marvel movies, they show people in funny suits running around. I don't like people in capes. I find it silly when someone dons a superhero suit and flies. I don't understand it. I grew up in Germany, that's probably why." Close quote. The article goes on to say, that's a somewhat odd explanation, but his assessment of Marvel movies and superhero releases in general is way off the mark when you think about heroes like Steve Rogers and Scott Lang. Either way, Emmerich clearly has no interest in working in the genre, something which most of us can probably agree is for the best. So here's my take on this whole thing. I just reviewed the original Independence Day, and I gave it high marks for being the kind of movie that it was. Roland Emmerich has no position, has no right to say, oh, the Marvel movies are silly, whatever, because his movies are incredibly stupid, incredibly silly. As much as I enjoy the first Independence Day, it's a stupid movie. It is downright stupid. Independence Day is not that great of a movie. For the type of movie that it is very good, but it's not a high-class drama. And the Marvel movies, they have more drama and emotional stakes than any of his movies ever have. But at the same time, with his disdain on making a Marvel movie, I'm also glad that he's not interested, because Roland Emmerich has more misses than hits, especially when you take into account that the one time he was given an established franchise to direct, he fucked it up. His version of Godzilla was awful, so if he got the helm of a Marvel or DC movie, it would have been awful as well, because he would have just turned it into his own thing. But hey, I'm glad that he's not interested in directing any movies in the genre. So there's that. All right, let's move on to the last bit of news that I have, and we'll end it right here. This actually turned to be a pretty short show. So let's end with something that I'm super excited about. Let's talk about Godzilla. Let's talk about Godzilla Resurgence. This comes from sci-fi-japan.com. Toho has given the site exclusive high-res photos and press notes on the upcoming Godzilla Resurgence, which opens next month in Japan. Still has no release date in the United States. But anyway, we have some new images. Mostly they're of the cast and the characters that they're playing, which I'd be hard-pressed to tell you like the actors' names, because, I mean, I'm not too familiar with Japanese actors, unless it's from the classic era of Godzilla back in the 60s. Most of the images we get of Godzilla are stuff that we already saw in the trailer, but one new image that really strikes me is when Godzilla appears on the shore, and a bunch of people are running away from him. This new Godzilla, I'll still stand by the notion that he looks terrifying, and but looking straight ahead, this Godzilla just doesn't look good. This is probably the first Godzilla where he doesn't look good from every angle. If you look at him straight on, he's got a huge waist and just a little tiny body. It just looks weird. But again, this is probably an image. Maybe it'll look better when we actually see it in motion. It's like what I say with behind-the-scenes production stills of superhero movies. The costumes look really goofy, but when you see them in action, they look really badass. But the most eye-opening thing about this story is that we have like one really important plot detail concerning Godzilla Resurgence. I'm just going to jump right ahead into what it says. While previous Godzilla movies have linked back to the 1954 original, the makers of Godzilla Resurgence chose to present a story in which Godzilla appears in Japan for the first time. So this is an interesting turn of events, because for a long time I had this theory that this new Godzilla in Godzilla Resurgence was going to be a resurrected, zombified version of the 1954 Godzilla. And that's because the start of every new Godzilla series has been a reboot, ignoring all the movies beforehand except the 1954 original. So the fact that this movie is going to be a flat-up, like straight-up relaunch and ignores every single movie, including the 1954 one, is kind of a breath of fresh air, admittedly. It's cool. Let me elaborate on the history of Godzilla reboots. So in 1984, there was The Return of Godzilla, which was the first reboot. It was the start of the second Godzilla series, but it was a direct sequel to the original Godzilla. But in Japan, the movie was still called Godzilla, so you had two movies with the name Godzilla. Confusing, I know. So that was a reboot, ignoring all but the first movie, and then the rest of the movies in the second series were sequels to The Return of Godzilla. Then the Millennium series came in, and each movie, with the exception of Tokyo SOS, was a reboot, but a sequel to the original Godzilla. Godzilla vs. Megaguirus was a sequel to the original Godzilla in an alternate way where Godzilla did not die in 1954. And basically they just digitally inserted the Godzilla suit from Godzilla vs. Megaguirus into recreated footage or stock footage from the 1954 movie. Then in Godzilla Mothra King Ghidorah, the original Godzilla from 1954 is revived in that movie and is kind of a zombie Godzilla. So again, it does follow the 1954 original. Godzilla against Mechagodzilla is a sequel in the sense that the original Godzilla was killed, but the bones survived and were used to be put inside of Kiryu, or Mechagodzilla, to fight what is obviously the second Godzilla to appear. And then Tokyo SOS was a sequel to Godzilla against Mechagodzilla. Godzilla 2000 and Godzilla Final Wars just kind of jump you into the middle of the story. They don't really set much up. So for those, we just assume that it's a sequel to the original Godzilla. I mean, with 2000, it's easier to say that it's a sequel to the original. With Final Wars is just a jumbled mess that you don't even know what it, like, follows. Like, what movies come before it? I don't know, it's just a mess. The more I think about Godzilla Final Wars, the less it, like, grows on me. Like, it is, I don't know, it's turning to be one of the worst Godzilla movies, because it just, for a movie that is supposed to be the celebration of 50 years of Godzilla, the director just turned it into some really cheesy, crappy Matrix rip-off action movie, and it was just ridiculous. But I mean, not to get off track. So, bottom line, I think it's really fascinating and a nice change of pace that this new Godzilla is going to be a straight up remake. Okay, not remake, but reboot that ignores every movie made. So I'm curious to see how it'll play out. I'm just hoping that we get a release date for here in the United States. I doubt it's going to come to theaters, but hopefully we'll get to see it. American Cinematheque, I can't stress this enough. Please try to strike a deal with Toho to put up another monster movie marathon and have Godzilla Resurgence be the movie that caps it all off. You've done it with Final Wars, you've done it with Tokyo SOS, you've done it with Gamera the Brave. Do it with Godzilla Resurgence. So if anyone out there from the American Cinematheque is listening, please, it'll be totally awesome, and people will come to it. But anyway, that does it for the news, and this is really turning to be a really short show. So here, let's get into the Blu-rays for this week, and I think we're just gonna name drop these because there isn't a whole lot I can offer. Okay, so coming out Blu-ray this week, we have The Unsinkable Molly Brown, My Big Fat Greek Wedding 2, The Brothers Grimsey, which Big Fat Greek Wedding 2 and Brothers Grimsey I heard weren't very good. We have The Wave, which I don't even know what that is. Looks like some disaster movie. Midnight Special starring Michael Shannon, which I heard is really good. From the Criterion Collection, we have Fantastic Planet, which I'm not really sure what that is either. And that's pretty much it. Next week, we have some pretty good releases, including a Criterion Collection that I'm really looking forward to getting. But that does it for the show. This has been episode 6 of the Alexander Robinson Movie News Show for June 19th, 2016. Hopefully next week, hopefully episode 7 will start off on a much lighter note, because for 2 shows in a row, it's just been depressing as hell. So that does it. I hope you enjoyed the show. Leave a comment and tell me what you think of all the stories I had to talk about. Like, subscribe, share with your friends. Don't forget to check out my official website. You can go follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Periscope, Riff.tv. And again, if you love what I'm doing and want to help support the channel, you can go over to patreon.com/TheRealMrRobinson and give out a monthly donation of however much you want. It could be like a quarter a month if you want. But any little bit helps if you can, and in return you get special rewards. If you don't donate monthly, that's awesome. That's fine. That's perfectly fine. You're getting awesome content no matter what. So until then, this is the real Mr. Robinson telling you there's only one.